Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Spain Data Community Meetup. We are so happy to have you all here at EPAM Spain Data Community Meetup Women in Data Inspired by Example. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Katerina Narivonchik, and I'm Lead People Program Specialist at EPAM Spain and also Community Coordinator. It's my honor today to moderate this meetup. Uh, so, Today, this meetup is dedicated to women who succeed in data. And our speakers today will share their stories about career change. I have just one question for you, for the audience. Have you ever changed your career path in your life? If yes, could you please put plus in the chat? Mhm. Do you see any pluses? Okay, great. So it means that some of you, just many of you, have changed their career in your life. Okay, so we can wait for some more minutes while others are joining us. And I would like to take some time to tell you some information about EPAM and about Spain data community. So this event is powered by EPAM. Let me share some information with you. Mhm. So this meetup is powered by EPAM. So EPAM is international organization. So we provide state-of-the-art digital engineering services for some of the world's most prestigious companies and brands. We are building complex solutions using modern technologies and our unique skill set. EPAM is presented in more than 50 countries. EPAM is included in the S&P 500, and by the end of 2022, we have more than 59,250 employees all over the world. Some facts about EPAM Spain. EPAM Spain was established in 2018, and today our team in Spain has more than 1,200 EPAMers, and we are growing quickly. EPAM Spain is one of the most international delivery destinations and in EPAM, and currently we have colleagues from diverse backgrounds, and we have more than 390 projects in Spain. This meetup is organized by Spain Data Community, and I would like to share some facts about our communities as well. So you know that numbers speak louder than words. So let's look at the numbers. So we have more than 573 members in our community. We have more than 1,100 event registrations. We are 10 times as big as we were last year, and we organize 48 events. If you want to get free quality content about data tech, if you want to expand your professional network, or if you want to find the direction for professional growth, please join us. You may scan the code and press the button join. If you would like to collaborate to try yourself in a new role, or if you have any questions, feel free to ask our Spain Data community leader, Xenia Staravera. By the way, Xenia is responsible for broadcasting today as well. So, okay. So, and I have a pleasure of introducing our first speaker, Eugenia Nikonchuk. So, she is software engineer and she will share her experience of changing her career path from a baker to data engineer. So, Eugenia, the floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Katerina. Um I'm very glad to be here today, and let me introduce myself. My name is Evgenia, uh, and here's 5 things that I'd like to tell you about myself for beginning. First thing is that I'm a mother of 3 amazing kids. Second thing is that I live in Poland for the last 8 years, but originally I came from Ukraine. Third thing is that I'm relatively new in IT world and was totally newbie when I started my adventure with data 3 years ago. Fourth thing is that I used to bake cakes for a living. And fifth thing is that I believe that if you want something strong enough and are willing to try hard enough, you can do it. And I'm hope that by the end of my presentation, there will be more people who share my belief. Uh, so today I'm planning to tell you all about this crazy journey uh, from cakes to big data, how it all started, how my goals has changed with the time, uh, what I needed to learn to become data engineer, what difficulties came on my way, and by the end, I would gladly answer all your questions. It all started at the beginning of 2020. At that time, I've had small baking business. I've baked regular birthday cakes. I've baked vegan cakes, truffles, you name it. It was convenient for me because I could take care of my family and children. You know how it is with children. You need to bring them to school, to football practice, to guitar lessons. Somebody always sick. Uh, there's a lot of things that needs to be done. Also, there was an issue with language. Since I'm pretty decent with Polish, but not native speaker. It's one thing to be a baker and not have perfect Polish, and another thing working in some other profession. So I was having fun because I love trying out new recipes and playing with decoration, but something was missing in my life and I already thought about changing career. As a catalyst came COVID. Suddenly, all 5 of us were trapped inside our house, and uh, I constantly cooked. And at some moment, I found myself thinking that no, no way will I want uh, to continue working in profession uh, that connected with kitchen in any way. So I started thinking, what can I do else in life professionally? And in March, my first idea was this to become sociologist. Mm, not like totally from the start because I have masters in sociology. I have experience in marketing research, and I worked in marketing consulting. So it's not that it was something very new. Rather, I haven't worked in this field for a long time, and I needed to uh, freshen up my um, knowledge. And because of that, I started going through some courses on Coursera. Mostly it was about quantitative methods and statistics. And please pay attention here. Here, I had my first experience working with programming language. It was R for statistics. And at first, I thought that it will be, hey, it's not my thing, programming. It will be awfully hard. But it wasn't, as I found out. But there was one thing that was not so good. After job market research, I found out that there's not such a hot demand on sociologists, and that maybe I need to think about something else. And here we come to another idea that I've had about profession. Um, when I was browsing job market, I found out that business analysts are actually in demand, and I thought, hey, I have some of necessary skills for business analyst. I worked in research. And I worked with clients when I was working in advertising agency and marketing consulting. So some things I already had, uh, but obviously not everything. And I decided that I need some help, and I need someone who will guide me through this transformation. And I found a mentor. And this person helped me to make plan, uh, what I need to learn, and we worked through this plan together. And among the things that I needed to study, there was also SQL. And it was really very um, pleasant for me. I fell in love with SQL, and also it was surprising that I liked it, seeing as it's like technical. Um, and here's the most interesting part, where I have found out about Big Data Academy program in EPAM, and made such a drastic change in goals. You may ask why it's so different. One thing is BA and another completely data engineer. And I must admit that I always kind of envied uh, people who worked in tech, because there's some beauty in knowing that no matter who uses currently written code, it will work just the same. Uh, there is no such luck in sociology or marketing. Human factor is much more important there. And I think that I just didn't have enough confidence in my technical abilities to apply for technical position earlier. But these several months of intense studying gave me this much needed confidence. Also, my mentor encouraged me. She told me that I'm really hard learner, and that she believes that I can achieve this goal. So I have started to prepare for test and technical interview for this program. And I must admit that never before in my life I have studied so hard at that period, uh, because I needed to start from the scratch. Uh, I needed to have grasp of basics of Linux, Python, Java, some basics of big data, algorithms, and data structures. It all was very new for me, and um, I thought that my chances to be accepted into program are very slim, but uh, fortunately, I got accepted. And here, new step of the program came. Uh, Here is what we needed to study while studying at this program. As you can see, there's a lot of logos. Those logos are about technologies that we needed to study, and here even not all of them. I see that I forgot some. So here is Hadoop, Kafka, Hive, Jenkins, Kubernetes, Spark, StreamSets, NiFi, and I see that I forgot Docker, no SQL databases, so it was not easy. I also need to add that additional challenge was uh, installing it all locally, because for the program we were said that there will be environment set up for us in the cloud, but it was set up mm, somewhere in the middle of the program, and we needed to do at first everything locally. And I think that I've spent about 50% of my time just dealing with difficulties with installations. But I'm not sorry that I've had this experience. It toughened me up, and now I can mm, easily, maybe not always easily, but it's pretty easy for me to install something locally. A little bit more about difficulties that I have encountered on the way. As I have already told, that there were problems with local environment. There was a huge amount of new information. Um, I had not my knowledge were not deep, and sometimes I lacked very basic things. Uh, Tasks were quite difficult because this program was initially prepared for a farmers who wanted to let's not forget that it all happened while we had COVID restriction, and children very often studied at home. And it was constantly, Mom, give me this, bring me some snack, and all that. But somehow I got through this, and I want to share with you my methods how to deal with these difficult situations. Maybe it can be useful for someone. First thing is that I tried to learn by combining different sources of information. It was like I could start from official documentation on some tool, then go to YouTube tutorial, then switch on to some blog, and it all come together somehow in a if I used only one source. Also, we've had this channel on Teams for students of Big Data Academy, and there we could share our questions, and someone could answer us. And also, I've had every week meeting with my mentor on the program, and he really helped me. Uh, this one time also stimulated me to work that I needed to tell somebody about my successes, and not only successes, unfortunately some failures also, but still it stimulated. And I think that without support from my husband, I would have quitted this program um, early on. He really supported me and uh, told me, just hang on a little bit more and it all will be good. And I believed him. Also, I um, found out that I can study everywhere and in every free moment. I studied on playground when I was uh, on a on the street with kids, and I studied while cooking, while doing some home chores. So uh, I'm I'm good like that, and I can use every free moment. Uh, so in June 2020, after job interview, I got mm, proposal from EPAM for junior data engineer position and gladly accepted it. And I must say that that was just the start. Uh, that while working at EPAM, I continued to learn and study. First, when I was on the bench, uh, I took part in internal learning program, and also I prepared for AWS certifications. Um, and when I working on a project, I often need to learn something new. Uh, and I must say that I really, really like it. That I keep learning something new every day. That keeps me from getting bored, and that keeps me interested. And I'm really glad. So that's the end of my part, and now it's time for uh, question. If you have one, I'll gladly answer them. Thank you.
Okay. Evgenia, thank you so much for sharing your story. I must admit that your experience is so inspiring. It was so challenging but rewarding. We have just one question from the audience. How to find a work life balance when you're a mother of three kids and at the same time are building your career? So, can you please provide with just some tips just for this situation? Top three
Uh,
recommendations.
Thank you for the question. I must say that starting a demanding job, um, it provoked some changes in family life in a way that my husband took a lot of tasks on himself which he hadn't done before. So uh, without his help, I think it would be really hard. I would need to have some person who will help. I think that it's possible, but it will be much harder. And mm, I don't know what what else. When I think that when I with the children, I try to be with them um, fully present. But and good thing is that they are growing, that they have more time that they spend by themselves. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much, Evgenia. It's a kind reminder from my side. If you have any questions to Evgenia, so put them into the chat. Evgenia, thank you so much once again. And our next speaker, Olga Nasenko, she will talk about switching from supply chain management to IT data practice. Olga, the floor is yours. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you very much. Yeah, thanks. So hi everyone. It's truly an honor for me to be here and to be among those amazing super girls. So yeah, let me present myself. So my name is Olga, and I'm senior software engineer in data analytics and visualization unit in our data practice. And today I'm going to tell you about how did I switch from logistics, from supply chain management to data practice. I'll give some hints and what to do and what not to do if you are trying to find yourself right now, and if you're trying to find some other job to do. So let me introduce myself. So I have a bachelor degree in supply chain management. I studied in Finland, and then I went for 1 year to study global business engineering in Denmark as double degree program. And global business engineering is something about like how to sell how to sell some engineering stuff to non-engineers. And after graduation, I worked in logistics for about 5 years, more or less, and I started as spare parts coordinator in Wärtsilä, and I ended up as a regional logistics manager in Mars in Royal Canin department. Along the way, I worked as the leading logistics specialist, and also once I was promoted to warehouse manager, and I was sent to Siberia to work in one of the breweries of Heineken company, and that was a really nice experience. I don't say that I loved it a lot, but that was a great lesson for me in my life. I still remember coming to warehouse in winter while it's like minus 48 in the morning, and you still have to go to warehouse and be positive to be a leader for your team. So yeah, I prefer Spain mostly. So in 2020, I decided to change my career, and that's what I'm going to talk about later. And yeah, during my free time, nothing special. I love to travel. I like to run. Sometimes I take my golden retriever to run with me. Of course, he doesn't like that, but okay. And I teach about wine. I have my wine blog on Instagram. And of course, I try to spend as much time as I can with my family. So, how it all started? Basically, in 2020, when the pandemic started, I had a really difficult project in my work. So, I was at that time regional logistics manager in Mars, and I had the project of relocating the warehouse to another 3PL provider. And that was really challenging, and the capacity of work was enormous. And I had that so-called burnout. I once I found myself disappointed in my job, in my career, in the company I was working, and in myself, and finally in my whole life. That was not an easy part of my life, honestly. And if someone is going through something like that in the moment, I am sending you lots of support, because that was really, I will not say challenging part. That was really a difficult part of my life. And I didn't really understand how did I ended up like that, because I was actually aiming to work in Mars company since I graduated, so for like almost 4 years, and that was my like huge goal to work on that position in that company. And I didn't really understand what went wrong, how what's wrong with me, or is it something wrong with the company or with the job. So I was trying to find another job in the same field in the supply chain, because I had almost zero experience in other fields like marketing and finance, and I actually hate finance and all of that stuff that is connected with money. So I didn't want to work there at all. So I had some interviews, and I was actually passing them, but when I had interviews with managers and with HR specialists, face to face, they actually probably saw something on my face telling them that I don't want to be here right now. I don't know what I'm doing here right now. I'm really bad actress, and sometimes, you know, like everything can be seen from my face. So I couldn't actually hide the feelings that I am really disappointed in everything and I don't know what to do next. So finally, after several months, still I didn't quit my job, so I was working at the same time and I was trying to find something else. I had some sessions with coach and I had some sessions with psychologists, so they were trying to help me to understand who I am and what do I want to do next, because it seemed to me that I don't know how to do anything else apart from logistics, and I was trying to find a job in another field. Long story short, I failed all of the interviews because I didn't have any like experience, because I was concentrating my like whole life at that moment on logistics, and I loved it. I loved it till 2020. So yeah, it was really difficult time for me. And like when I was on my probably highest level of despair, yeah, it's an interesting story actually how it was resolved. So at that moment, I remember me passing by my boyfriend. So we were working at home because of the pandemic, and he was at that moment manager, and he was working with SQL, and I was just passing by him, and I asked him like, "What are you doing? What are those really weird letters and numbers on your screen? What are you doing? Can you tell more about that? Because like I have no IT background." So yeah, and he actually showed me. So for 1 week, every day we spent with him studying SQL, and I found myself not hating it, and was actually quite interested in what's going on. And I went through some courses in Coursera and LinkedIn, and I can recommend them a lot, because like if you search for something like, you know, SQL for Dummies, there will be a bunch of nice courses that you can you know, cover in 1 or 2 weeks just to get familiar with the technology. And after some time, I heard from my friend that she actually passed courses in EPAM Training Center. And you can actually see here, I posted QR code to the page about those courses. So you can like, yeah, scan and go and see what I'm talking about. So I applied to EPAM Training Center to the course about business intelligence, and long story short, I passed all of the interviews, and I was studying and working at the same time. I don't know, I'm not sure that it was the right decision to combine working and studying, because it was quite yeah, tough, honestly, to study for like 12 to 20 hours per week plus working full time. But yeah, it worth it. Actually, for me, I got a job offer from EPAM, and I became junior software engineer in data analytics engineering. And that's also worth mentioning here, that it wasn't also easy for me to, after being a regional logistics manager, to become junior software engineer. And I had to think about that also a lot, because after you have like you work on the level, and you like you gain like nice amount of money, and you have, you know, some power, you have a team, and you actually manage some processes in huge company, and you manage lots of people, and you know, you have some power, you know, to call someone, and the problem will be resolved, and someone are even afraid of you. And after that, you're like, for me it seemed that I'm starting everything from scratch from the beginning. And it seemed for me that I'm losing all of the experience and all of the skills I was gaining through almost 9-10 years. And that was a tough, but I used my motto, better an oops than what if. And I decided that, okay, I will start all over again, because anytime I can go back and I can become logistics manager again, but I'll try and let's see what's happening. So as the result, now I work with different domains, different data projects, and technologies. I have truly awesome colleagues from all over the world. I love my job, and that's the most important part of everything here. I love my job for about more than 2 years now. And what's really interesting that I benefited from my previous experience. It turned out that you are not losing, first of all, your soft skills that are quite crucial, because it's easy to gain hard skills, but about soft skills, it's not that obvious. And moreover, I'm working now on the logistics project, and I work there as a data analyst, and I'm actually working with all of the supply chain management processes that I'm aware of, and I can share my expertise with my colleagues, and I do understand what's going on and how the data is built. So I have now, vision from two parts of the processes, and that's awesome. I really love it. And the important thing is that if you find yourself now in this similar position, in this like more or less the same part of your life is going, and you're having something like I had 3 years ago, some advices that you should stop being disappointed in yourself. There is no problem with you. It's not the problem of you, of your life, of your job. Nothing is wrong. It's normal. It's normal to to switch to another role. It's normal to switch to another job, and it's normal just to quit the job and have some time with yourself. You should stop lying to yourself and searching for excuses. You should stop refusing help. And that's actually a really crucial part, because I like lots of people helped me, and I really appreciate that. And if not my boyfriend, I would never go to IT actually. So you should stop discounting your experience and knowledge. As I told, you're not losing your soft skills, and that's the really important part. That's the key. And you never know where you're going to end up, and are you going to use the skills that you gained previously. You should not be getting stuck in one place because you're afraid of changes, because stability doesn't exist. It's illusional, and you should stop thinking that, okay, I have, like, I am now in my comfort zone, I don't want to change anything. Believe me, last years in our world showed to us that nothing is stable, and you should be more agile, and you should be always ready for a change, even small one. And what can help you for now? Of course, training material. If you're switching to another area of expertise, you should study a lot, and you should try to find nice materials and nice courses. You should ask for help from coaches and psychologists, because those are professionals that can actually help you on your way. You should ask for support from your family and friends, and you should always share your emotions and what you are going through right now. You shouldn't keep it inside yourself, because you will ruin yourself afterwards, like at the end. Some trivial stuff about sleep, food, and sport. We all know about that we should have enough sleep, like nice food, and we should have some physical activities. But somehow, I don't know why, but we always forget about that when we are in stress. We don't really care about this vehicle that carries us around, but we should have actually enough sleep, enough food. And if you don't have time to cook every day, just use, I don't know, 4 hours on Sunday evening, prepare some portions of your food, put them into containers and freeze them, and every day you will have some food that needs just to be warmed up, and that's all. And sport, instead of, I don't know, dumb scrolling, going through TikToks and Instagram for 20 minutes, just take a blanket. If you don't have some yoga mat, it's not the problem. Take a blanket, just do some sport, do some yoga, do some stretching, whatever, for like 15-20 minutes. Your body will benefit from it, and you will benefit from it at the end, because it's really crucial. And one more important thing is the financial cushion. No, it doesn't matter if you're changing your profession or not. You should always have it, and we all know that it's a must, actually. But if you are switching to another job and you think that, okay, I'm not going to earn the same amount of money for some time, you should have this financial cushion to pay yourself every month. That's what I did, actually. That's why I didn't quit my job, and I was working at the same time while I was studying, just to pay yourself not to lose the level of your living, because what you're going through right now is stress, and don't bring even more of it to your life right now. So yeah, thank you very much for your attention. I really hope I helped someone, and if you have any questions, I'll be really happy to answer you. And yeah, again, it was an honor. Thanks for this event, girls. You rock. So thank you very very much. Yeah.
Olga, thank you so much for sharing your ups and downs of your career path, of your change in the career, and also for your tips and recommendations for people. Maybe some people here in the audience are still thinking about changing the career. So we have two questions for you.
Okay.
So the first one. I had this period in life when I had a lot of rejections based on CV and failed many interviews in a row. I hardly could find any motivation to go on. How you manage to find motivation?
Um, no, that's a really good question. It's okay not to have it for some time. You shouldn't push yourself, and I didn't have it for quite a long time. So it's okay not to have it for several months. It's okay to just to have a rest, and afterwards think about what do you really want. And if it's okay not to know it. That's why I mentioned asking for some help from professionals, like from coaching and psychologists, from your friends, and try something. Also, don't be disappointed in yourself. Just give yourself some rest. Stop this stress. And I would also recommend, maybe after going through some time, just maybe ask for some professional to go with you through your CV, because it's also important to have a truly like of a good quality. And if for me, it's not easy to make a CV and to reflect everything that I am in the CV. So I always ask for help. So that's also a nice thing to do.
Okay, thank you so much. And one more question for you. I find it really difficult to get a junior or entry level data analyst job when changing careers. It seems like every company wants someone with at least 1 or 2 years of experience, even in these roles. Any tips or suggestions on how to get that first data analyst job? Thanks.
So after you finish your studying, but yeah, okay, let's be honest, studies are never they are not never going to be finished in IT. I would suggest maybe to go to some positions, to some internship to the companies. So just send them the CV and write proper cover letter, not just copy paste the cover letter, but the one when you're sincerely writing that, okay, I need some experience. Please take me as maybe it won't be like not paid job, but at least something that you can list in your CV and use as an experience while applying to junior job.
Okay. Thanks a million for your recommendations. Thank you so much, Olga. And
Thanks.
we are going on. So, our next speaker is Isabella Zhuk. She has a unique experience about passing the way from a data analyst to a data engineer. Isabella, thank you so much for joining us today. And the floor is yours. Let's get started. Thank you.
Yes, hello. Nice having you here, everybody, today. Thank you guys for having me with this presentation. So today I will try to share a bit of my experience, how I went through a data analyst career to being a data engineer. And also I will try to discuss a bit about the challenges along your possible way to big data world as a data engineer. So in terms of agenda, first I will tell you a few words about myself to set the scene a bit, so you could know maybe where I started, what was my journey. Then I will try to describe you very shortly why I decided to switch to data engineering. And then something which is probably very exciting to us is that we can discuss about the challenges I faced. Then also about the unique advantages you will get after reskilling from data analyst to a data engineer. Next, I will say more a bit like practical things about my journey in mentoring program and what exactly path I took in terms of like technical knowledge. And then we can try to together answer a bit of a question, is that path potentially for you? So what questions you would need to ask yourself to determine if this is what you want to follow. So let's start a bit about me. I have a bit of an interesting background in terms of my education. So I have a BA in international relations, which is like a bit of a connection with economics and diplomacy as well. And I have master's degree in statistical analysis. So yeah, I'm not, you can say, an IT professional from education. More of like a mathematics background is something that I do have. I started my career as a data analyst. Now I'm a data engineer at EPAM. So I have over 5 years of working on data projects in summary, 4 of which I spent in EPAM in like various setups of teams on multiple projects. What might be important is that right now I'm in my second year of being a data engineer. 3 and a bit of first years of my career were in the data analytics field. In terms of my private interests, I enjoy good food, both eating and cooking it. And also I'm a fan of hiking and any sport that you can do outside. Basically, that's my favorite things to do in my free time. So first thing, maybe let's start to discuss about why I decided to become a data engineer, and also why could you potentially see it as an opportunity for you. So first things first, and this might seem like a cliche, but for me it was a new challenge. So I got maybe not bored, but I felt that in my previous position I was not growing as fast as I was hoping to. And by no means this does not mean that like data analytics path was not challenging enough for me. It was just not maybe challenging in ways that I would like to. So I was very focused on my technical growth, and it seemed like a natural step for me to learn new things and start new path. So as I already mentioned, I was interested in this technical development. And for me, data engineering is a combination of like pure software development and also analytics. So obviously it's like based on writing code, and it's like purely, like software development activity. But still, you need to deal with data, and there are a lot of things that you will be able to reuse, and we will discuss it later, from your path as a data analyst before. Also, a bit more practical thing is that I got a sense that there is a lot of opportunities on like various projects on both in EPAM and potentially even outside. So I saw that as like an opportunity to try myself on like more projects with more opportunities. And it seemed like their demand was huge at the time when I was switching to this data engineering. And it seemed that it might be a bit easier, to join, since even for juniors, there were many offers in that field. Another thing which might be like a plus and also a minus is that I think that in data engineering, there's a huge pool of technologies. So basically, it's non-stop learning. So far, I worked on 3 different data platforms as a data engineer. And honestly, each of these platforms were consisting of some common points, but also like a lot of new tech that I needed to learn and I needed to get a grasp on. The amount of like certificates or courses you could potentially do within this field is, at least for me, seems to be endless for now. So it is going to be a lot of learning, but for me at the time, it seemed like, wow, it's like a big field. I will definitely find something for myself. And another thing is that for me, this kind of happened. So it was very natural to me. I got interested in those technical things and just kind of was like a natural direction to grow for me. So the main challenges I faced during my reskilling, well, first thing that you need to definitely take into account if you would try to do similar step as I did, is that such reskilling will be extremely time consuming. Even if you have very good like basics and experience in working as a data analyst, still there will be a lot of gaps, both technical and non-technical, that you will need to deal with when you will be working as a data engineer. So it's not only like time that you can potentially spend on some course, but also your own time when you will be dedicating your free hours on education. Another thing that was kind of interesting to me is that you will find yourself having gaps in topics that will seem obvious for other people. Such example of this topic was that as a data analyst, I did not really utilize version control that much. So we had version control in our projects, but it was very basic like usage. So I was not managing any repositories. I was sometimes committing some simple parts of code. And when I joined data engineering practice, it turns out I needed to like fill in this gap. And it sometimes might be difficult because for other people that, naturally grow in IT role, that's very obvious. Also, next thing is that you will need to change how you see the data. And by that, I basically mean that as an analyst, you are very focused on result. So you need to deliver some sort of product. Yeah, let's say a report or some number or some recommendation. And as a data engineer, yes, you also need to look at the final result. But what is very important is the process that you will actually follow to create not only a good final product, but also like a reusable, robust solution that will be free of bugs and that will be able to function without much like human intervention. Yeah, so basically build a good pipeline, not only the final result. Another thing is that I find that in data engineering there is much bigger weight of your actions. So I learned it the hard way on my first project as a data engineer. It's sometimes because of that, it can be a bit more stressing, because especially when you're supporting some existing solution, when some pipelines data is already on production, it might happen that like there's a bigger risk of messing things up when you're an engineer as when you're an analyst. So this is something, it's not often said, but that's actually the case. And next thing, well, you will be junior again. So even if as a data analyst, I was working in a lead role, I was, managing a team and so on. When I started working in data engineering, I was like junior again. Of course, I think I was managed to like climb some steps a bit faster than if I would completely start from the scratch, but still, couple of first months are going to be difficult and you're going to probably ask a lot of questions. You will need a lot of support and you need to be simply ready for that. But I will try to maybe convince you that it's actually worth it. I would definitely do that again, and I don't regret the decision I made. So now we can discuss a bit the other side. So what would be the unique advantages you will get after skilling? First thing is that you will be able to find the root cause of an issue usually way quicker than a software engineer that never worked as an analyst. So especially in data world, there happen to be some bugs in pipelines or in the code that can be easily traceable if you actually look at the data, you look at the result. Some errors, of course not, they will be purely technical, but some of them will be connected into actually, digging into data, looking at numbers, looking at the results you're getting. And in this, data analyst that got reskilled to data engineer will definitely rock. And another thing is that as a data analyst, you have probably, or I have, learned a lot about focusing on providing good business value. So answering questions and making sure that what I provide is useful, that what I provide is actually the product that the client or my stakeholder was asking. And this can be quite difficult, what I observe on the projects that I work on sometimes. For people who come from data analytics, I think this is much easier than for our colleagues that only worked as software engineers in their career. This is similar. We better understand business needs. So as a data engineer, you will oftentimes work with some sort of a story that will have a technical requirements, but also a purpose of the product that you need to build. And for me, in my opinion, it is very important to understand what you're building, what purpose it serves, for multiple reasons. One of that could be, for example, you can suggest something, or you can just focus on building the proper value of a tool. Yeah. And in that, I think also we have some sort of an advantage. And also something that I heard from my colleagues on one of the projects where we worked in a team of data engineers, data analysts, and data scientists. I was a data engineer in that team. I was able to understand their problems, their needs better than colleagues that never worked as data analysts. So we know what are the challenges, we know what would be potential extraordinary benefits. So now maybe let's focus on how actually do that. So I will tell you a bit about my journey in the mentoring program. So let's maybe set the scene a bit. Things I knew before I started the program of reskilling. So when I started, I was a data analyst with around 3 years of experience. I knew R from university, but also I worked a bit with R because, I also in my previous career in analytics was participating a bit with some data scientific projects. I knew SQL very well. I knew Power BI very well, Tableau. I knew Python, but that was now when I'm actually also developing as a software engineer in Python, I see that was mostly very basic things, mostly programming in Jupyter notebooks. And of course, I knew Excel. So at that point, I was interested into changing my career path. So what happened to me is that I contacted my resource manager here in EPAM. I told him about the doubts I have, the problems that I'm facing with managing my growth. And he proposed to me to join a mentoring program that EPAM is organizing. Basically, the audience of this is, of course, EPAM employees, but I believe you could follow similar path even by yourself, if you would trace similar technologies. So in order to participate in that program, I needed to learn some prerequisites. So tools that I will be able to use as a software developer. So first thing is Unix. So there's Linux commands that you need to know in order to, copy files, install something, things like that. It might seem very basic, but in my work as data analyst, I did not use that a lot. So I needed to definitely refresh this part. Then Git, so version control. This is very important. So this is definitely a prerequisite to even start. Docker, yeah, this is like a containerization tool. So also like to set up your environment in order to be able to work. Some programming language, for me, that was Python. That was like the first programming language that I was actually learning. I needed to learn more, and I needed to be sure that I know this language enough to actually start like working seriously with it. What would that mean? So for me, basically, what I did, I spent, maybe in total 2 or 3 months in like self-studying on all of those things, out of which 2 months was probably dedicated to only Python. For me, biggest benefit was solving tasks in this language. So I just was finding some tasks online to solve in a given language, and then I was just solving them and then trying to, improve my skills like that. And last thing, how to efficiently use an IDE. So basically, how to work with the code to be efficient, to be fast, and to be able to work like comfortably. After I finished the mentoring program, so here I studied already with a mentor. So there was someone who was checking my progress, someone who was checking my homeworks that I needed to do, so like practical tasks. First thing, and I cannot stress it enough, was the Spark. So like parallelism, how Spark processes data, both theoretical knowledge, but also we had a lot of like practical homeworks, both with Scala. Scala, for those of you who don't know, is like a programming language, and it's like native language for Spark, but also in PySpark, so like Python version for Spark. So this was for me the most important point in the mentoring program. But besides that, there were orchestration tools such as Airflow, messaging, Kafka. There were some basics of cloud. So in my mentoring program, we only touched like some main concepts, but I know that right now this program is also contains some more detailed information about one of picked cloud providers. And if you want to, you're unable to participate in the mentoring program, I think it's also very important right now to pick one of the cloud providers and just get to know what's going on with this technology. We also had CI/CD basics. That's also quite important. Hadoop and Hadoop environments. So this is basically for like on-prem distributed storage. That's, in my opinion, also very important. Still lots of projects having on-prem setup, and I believe that this knowledge will be also useful for you even if you plan to work with a cloud. Hive, that's connected to Hadoop, and some of the NoSQL databases. So this is the knowledge, all of the three fields, of course, combined, that I had when I finished my mentoring program, and I thought I'm ready to join the data engineering path. So as you can see, I had 3 years of experience, then a couple of months studying by myself, and then 8 weeks of extremely intensive studying. I was basically not working. I was only studying at that time. And I think if you would want to work normally, that would take you more time. But without work, just studying, it was 8 weeks. Okay, so now quickly, what questions you would need to ask yourself if you want to know, is it for me? Is it the path that I want to take? Am I okay to dedicate some of my free time to study? It's a big gap and a big step you need to do. And even if you would like to do it in a couple of weeks, for example, or months or even years, you will need to dedicate some of your free time. You can't do it that way. Will you enjoy spending a lot of time in front of your computer? I know that nowadays data analysts also work most of the time in front of your laptop, but in programming and in data engineering, that's like obvious. We have much less meetings, much more working like in front of your computer, and also working by yourself. So you need to ask yourself question, will you feel comfortable sitting 8 hours just, looking at the code and solving problems? We do have meetings, of course, but much less than I used to have as a data analyst. Will I have enough patience to remove some blockers for myself? And this is especially to the part when you will need to study by yourself. Some problems you will face will be very easy to solve with just simple Google, but some will be not. And you will need to have a lot of patience to be able to remove these blockers, to be able to look for answers, and not any answers, like good answers. Another question is, am I okay to be junior again? So I know this may sound silly, but if someone in like their previous field was a lead or even like some sort of a manager, and now you will go back to your junior role, I get it that for some people it can be inconvenient. For me, I actually kind of enjoyed it. But yeah, this is something you need to keep in mind, that this will happen. You will be again like junior, starting many things over from scratch. And am I fine with the fact that I need to take some steps back to be able to move forward later on? This is a bit connected with the point 5. So you will need to like find courage to don't see like to forget some of the things you learn as a data analyst and try to learn them completely from scratch. Yeah. And last question, do you even like coding? So in your experience as data analyst, have you even tried writing some code? Did you enjoy it? Maybe before you make a huge jump, it's worth a try to see if you will even enjoy this kind of work, because it's kind of special and honestly a lot of different that your work as an analyst. If all of those questions are a check for you, I think it's worth a try, at least exploring the data engineering world. It's very vast and very rapidly growing, and I'm sure there's plenty of room for more reskilled data analysts to join the data engineering world and or practice in EPAM. Okay, thank you very much. Now I think we had last step as our small Q&A.
Thank you, Isabella. Thank you so much for sharing your journey and also for highlighting the challenging that you faced during your career switch. So we have 2 questions from the chat. So the first one, which skills do you consider essential for data developer? I think this topic is a little bit overhyped. What can do data developer that cannot do backend developer?
Well, I think in terms of like technical skills, the main thing I would say is like Spark and a bit of a distributed computing, this area. And also, as I mentioned, for me, in data engineering, it's like a bit mix of software development and also your work as a data analyst. So even if we will try to deny it, with my practical experience in data engineering, there is a lot of looking into the data, checking the results, like, working with databases, working with data structures. So I think all of those things are a bit different than in actual backend development. Yeah, so I think there are a few technologies that will be different, such as, for example, Hive or Hadoop. I think they're not that often used for backend development. Spark, again, you will probably need much like bigger knowledge in terms of databases. So there are some areas that probably will be different, but I think the switch from backend developer to data engineer will be much easier than switch from data analyst to data engineer. At least in my opinion.
Thank you so much. And one more question. Why do people still use on-prem when is the era of clouds?
I think there can be like a couple of reasons for that. First, and I believe the biggest and like the most popular, is that there are a lot of legacy systems around us, and the migration from on-prem to cloud can be difficult. Not always companies have access to developers like on site that would be able to perform such migration. And this is usually when EPAM actually steps in. Yeah, I myself worked on a project where we migrated the on-premise into cloud, and EPAM served there as some sort of like an advisor. So I think this is the first and the biggest thing, really. But also, I know a lot of things I connected probably with like security reasons. So some companies do not feel that their data will be secure enough in the cloud. And also, I believe for like small enough systems, that could potentially make sense. So depends on the use case. But in terms of like the projects that I worked for, the biggest reason was that there was a legacy system that someone needed to support, and either the migration was planned or it was just not fitting the budget. So yeah, from my experience, these three things probably will be the most important.
Okay, thank you so much. And one more question. Would it be possible to switch from middle BI analyst position to middle data engineering position, or the gap is too big?
Well, everything is possible. Everything is possible, but I think the gap will be, again, this time opposite to backend developer, the gap will be bigger, I believe, than with data analyst. So, well, definitely, like, I would first check if this is even something that you enjoy. For example, try to write some code, try to just solve a couple of like maybe simple tasks with, I don't know, Python, for example, or just try to get some knowledge. If you feel that this is something that interests you, why not? But definitely you will need to do some like prerequisites. So the technologies that I mentioned, or like, yeah, even some basic programming skill. And with enough work, I think, and you will actually get similar benefits as data analysts have. Yeah, so you will definitely understand business requirements very well, and you might get some like unique view on the problem. So I think it's definitely possible, but it will require like a lot of work and a lot of like prerequisite learning to even be able to start doing some courses on data engineering.
Okay, thank you so much for your answers. And we are proceeding. So our next speaker is Irina Satina. So she is lead software engineer, and she will share her view on data visualization as a choice for mathematicians. Irina, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Hi, everyone. So yeah, I'll try to make this talk as fun as I can. And I want to show you that math can be beautiful, not only boring. And basically, I want to share with you my journey from the academic background into the business, and how my mindset formed in the academic structures throughout 10 years, trying to find applications in the business world. So, as I've said in this talk's description, it's often assumed that data visualization is an easy entry-level specialization within data practice. So it seems to be suitable for people without neither mathematical nor computer science degree. And this is where I kind of feel underrepresented. So in this talk, I've decided to share my view on data visualization as a choice for mathematicians. And I'm going to talk about a fundamental university background being useful for BI developer role, what can be learned along the way, and why it is interesting for me personally. But before we dive into the topic, I wanted to quickly address today's theme, women and data inspired by example. What is the new norm? So to be honest, it wasn't easy to come up with the talk today under this umbrella. because I've never considered myself as an inspirational example. But as I had multiple conversations with my colleagues, I realized there are not many of us who actually feels like being an example. And I think the reason is we are looking for an ideal example. We want to be an ideal example. So the truth is we all have our own insecurities despite gender, and all human beings aren't ideal. Well, the math objects are, but the humans aren't. So I decided that maybe we can consider ourselves as good enough examples. And I'm truly convinced that everyone has some qualities to be inspired by. And our work here is to notice that. As you probably heard a million times, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So having said that, we can switch to the topic of my presentation. So this is the agenda to help you not miss. This is basically the structure I've used to put all my thoughts in order, and I'm going to share a quick introduction. First about myself, why should you listen to me at all? Then I will introduce the definition of the math beauty and some examples of it. Then we will move to the data visualization definition and examples, and then some everyday example from IT field and the conclusion. For sure, then your questions. So let's move on. So my name is Irina Setina. This is me. I've spent 10 years in academic structures, 4 years in academic gymnasium before university, and then 6 years in the uni. So then 7 years in business intelligence. It's still hard for me to refer to myself as a mathematician. As you can see, I've never made this choice. First, I was interested in both math and biology. Then I adhered to the combination of math, physics, and computer science. And finally, math and IT. This journey made my understanding of beauty shift from an aesthetic characteristic towards mathematical and philosophical. And in this talk, I'll share my mindset formed in academia, finding applications in the business world, as I mentioned. So let's move on to the definition of the math beauty. So what is it finally? So mathematical beauty. In mathematics, we often talk about beauty when referring to concepts that are both elegant and profound. For instance, the Pythagorean theorem and the golden ratio are all examples of mathematical concepts that are both beautiful and useful. And that's what we all aim for. So mathematical beauty is about more than just aesthetics. It's about the elegance, simplicity, and universality of a concept. There is this aesthetic pleasure derived from the abstractness, purity, simplicity, depth, or order lines of mathematics. So mathematicians may express this pleasure by describing mathematics, or at least some aspects of it, as beautiful, or describe mathematics as an art form, or at minimum as a creative activity. Such as music and poetry. So we want to be in the same role. So that's the definition. And let's now have a look at some of the examples of visualized mathematical beauty. So the first example is prime numbers visualization. So prime number is a natural number which is greater than 1, and it's not a product of two smaller natural numbers. Or in other words, these are the objects that are only divisible by 1 and themselves. So while these visualizations can seem random, they actually have a pattern to their distribution. And you can see this pattern on the top left corner on the picture. So there are all the numbers, and the pattern starts from the center, from 1, and goes around throughout all the numbers. So visualizing this pattern, visualization of this pattern can actually lead to some stunning and beautiful images. More complex ones you can see on this slide. And feel free to Google for more. And yeah, so that's the first example, and it's not really boring anymore, right, in this way. So let me show you another example. So let's move to the next one that I've got for today. So this is the Mandelbrot set visualizations. So that's one of the most famous examples of mathematical beauty in data visualization. So these images of the Mandelbrot set exhibit an elaborate and infinitely complicated boundary that reveals progressively ever finer recursive detail at increasing magnifications. And this is what you can see on the bottom right corner. And so mathematically, we can say that the boundary of the Mandelbrot set is a fractal curve. And the style of this recursive detail depends on the region of the set boundary being examined. So basically, you can see different visualization of the same set, and you can see that the pictures are completely different, starting from the simple ones in black and white and the ending with more colorful and complex ones on the right. So what is special about this set? The Mandelbrot set is a complex object, as you already see, that is generated by a simple iterative algorithm. So the beauty is that we can get something so complex by just iterations of something really simple. So yeah, so this is the Mandelbrot set, and this is the beauty of fractals, and you can also check for them over the internet. And I also wanted to mention that basically there are some examples of fractals in the nature out there. So you can find it if you look for patterns or strange repetitive objects in the nature. And I find that quite interesting. Okay, so these are two main examples I have for the mathematical beauty. And now let's introduce the data visualization. So for the last 4 years, I work as a data visualization engineer. And basically, what can I say about visualizations? I like to see it as an art and science of presented complex data in a way that is easy to understand and visually appealing. So yes, we have all the systems. Yes, we have a lot of data about everything. But on the other side, we still have people. So the aim here is to make this complex data simple for the end user. So we want to, similar to the concept of mathematical beauty, we want to build a good data visualization, which will be not only visually attractive, but also will provide insights into the underlying data. So we can make data-driven decisions based on all the data we know about the world. And also we can feel some joy from using it, right? So let's take a look at some examples of beautiful data visualizations. So here we go. These are 3 different dashboards. The first one is the Gapminder World Population Visualization. So the Gapminder identifies systematic misconceptions about important global trends and proportions, and uses reliable data to develop easy to understand teaching materials to rid people of their misconceptions. Their mission is to fight devastating ignorance with the fact-based worldview everyone can understand. So that's the first dashboard on the left. We will share the presentations and you can check it through the link later on and play with that. It's really a nice tool. And then the next dashboard is the New York Times COVID-19 dashboard. So it shows the story of COVID-19 in the US, but you can change the filters and see other regions as well. So basically, this is a good way of presenting information which is connected to the database. And so it is a dynamic magazine, let's say this way. You can see the typography, the data ink ratio, colors, layouts, and interactivity. So yeah, that's really nice work. And then the last example on the right is a Tableau Foundation Living Annual Report. So Tableau Foundation's mission is to encourage the use of facts and analytical reasoning to solve the world's problems. So throughout this dashboard, we can see how Tableau support organizations across the globe who are leading the change in using data in innovative ways. And yeah, so this report shows that foundations and nonprofits can move beyond the traditional annual report. With this approach, organizations can share the latest information and count the time and cost of producing a traditional printed piece. So that's what we help people to build. We want to help them to save time and also to understand data better and make the decisions not based on guessing, but rather the data-driven ones. So why we visualize the data? For me, data is yet another way to explore the world. So data-driven decision-making is the new normal. And this is knowledge instead of guessing. Knowledge is power, they say. So if you have data, why don't we use it? If you don't have data, well, maybe we can consider starting collecting it. So yeah, the importance of aesthetics is that it can make the data more accessible, helping to break down complex information into bite-sized, understandable chunks. And this is where the beauty for me lies. So it's not only aesthetics, it also making something very complex to be simple and digestible. And also aesthetically pleasing visualizations can engage and captivate audiences, making them more likely to explore the data and gain insights. These are the examples of the dashboards. And here we were focused mostly on layout, but is the data visualization only drag and drop? Is that only about the layout? Well, my answer is no. We also have some code behind. It depends on which set of tools you're using. But here I wanted to present some of the beautiful, from my perspective, concepts which we are using in our day-to-day activities if we work with code. So the Yagni, you aren't gonna need it. The keys, keep it simple, stupid. The dry, do not repeat yourself. And the solid principle. We build better products, I would say. And we enjoy more someone else's code if the person followed these principles. So this is where I see beauty in the code. So if it's simple, if it's not repeat itself, if you don't need additional documentation, if it's easy to read, yeah, so basically if it's nice to work with, that's a beautiful code. And I also encourage everyone to think if we can use these principles not only with code, but with communication in general. So, for example, the first principle, you aren't going to need it. If you want to provide someone with information, probably you can think about the person who will be a consumer of this product. So you can provide only necessary information. Then the same about keeping it simple. If you write everything simple so person understands from the first time, we can save some time on communication and reduce the waste of time, right? Similar with do not repeat yourself. If you can establish a process in a way that you can share information in one specific source and everyone can go there and read that and you don't need to repeat it several times throughout the day, then it is beautiful, isn't it? So the processes can be beautiful as well in this case. The solid principle, I've added this just because I like this joke. And basically, it moves us into the topic of abstractions. So what I wanted to also highlight that abstractions is the objects that we first met in math and in philosophy, but actually we are doing abstractions every day. So yeah, surprise for those who didn't like philosophy, you're actually using that. So let's move on to the abstractions topic. So I really like this concept. And so, well, if you don't familiar with that, the abstraction is, in essence, preserving information that is relevant in a given context and forgetting information that is irrelevant in that context. So this is what we do while we are doing modeling, whether it's data modeling or any other modeling. In object-oriented programming as well, we are using these abstractions. That's just the tool. And so then I also added one more example about forms and things, or phenomenon and nomenon. And this helps me to remember that what we show is not always what we store. So in a way, we kind of using this concept as well in our day-to-day activities. And then the last one is about the levels of abstraction, zoom in and zoom out. So basically, the best leaders work the zoom button in both directions. And when you're stuck with solving a problem, it's always a good advice to zoom out and to look into the bigger picture. And I was always wondering whether other people easily switches between different levels of abstractions, and actually looks like not really. But I think this is one of the really useful skills we all need to develop. So then we have a bigger picture, but we can zoom in and solve particular problems as well, and then zoom out. And also, when you talk to different audiences about the very same thing, you can use different levels of abstractions on purpose. Okay, so let's move on into the combinations of topics which I did learn throughout the university on the left, and things that I've learned on the go. So this slide is here to show to you to demonstrate that there is no one right way. So there are always options. And I believe there is no education which will cover everything you need for your work. So you will always need to learn new things. And I had to learn a lot of new things in the business world, but still I'm very happy and lucky to be able to apply those things that we've learned throughout the university on my day-to-day activities. And okay, so let's move on. And this is the conclusion slide. And it is once again about the idea that we don't have one right way to do anything. So all the backgrounds are important. And the more diverse people we have, the more diverse our units are, our teams are, the more innovative solutions we can develop together. So I'm a big advocate of the collaboration instead of competition. So I actually, today I propose you to bring your unique perspective, your experience, your ideas, and your understanding of beauty into this common world of collaboration. And I hope that one day we will include everyone on that level, that we don't need to discuss our differences anymore. So we will value everyone based on their just will and skills, and do not focus on who we are or from which background we came from. And yeah, so this is it. And this is the last slide. And I'm ready to answer to your questions if you have any. Thank you very much.
Irina, thank you so much for sharing. So we got authentic pleasure and inspiration from your presentation, and we have 3 questions from the chat. And I remind our viewers, if you have any questions, put them into the chat, please. So the first question: why have you chosen BI, not data analytics or machine learning?
That's a good question. Basically, while preparing to this talk, I've been checking, reminding myself about my thesis that I did in the university. And based on this thesis, I would expect that I would go into machine learning. But as it happens, I didn't know a lot about different paths that I can, from which I can choose while being at university. So it was by chance in a way, but then I realized that I actually like it, and I could understand what exactly I like about that. So I stick to that. And yeah, I really like being closer to the people and being able to help them understand the data we already have. I think that's important because data science is, I mean, amazing, but it's usually something super complex, and people don't really understand that. And I like that in my sphere, I can show them data they have and they can understand that. And it helps them to make data-driven decisions.
Okay, thank you so much for your answer. So next question is, what is harder, proving Cauchy's theorem or getting business requirements from the clients?
Well, what is harder? It depends on what you like more. It depends on the people you talk to and on your mood, basically. So if you could mix them, I would propose you to have both and to combine them. That would be an ideal solution for me.
Okay, thank you. And one more question. Was it hard to change quite complex math language to business language? This is a challenge for me. Nobody understands what I start explaining. Do you have recommendations here?
Yeah, thank you for this question. That's a very nice one. I think this question is related to this concept of zooming in and zooming out. So my advice would be always think about your audience. Do not talk to them the language you usually talk to yourself and the language you understand. Talk to them the language they understand. Put some effort into bringing yourself into their shoes and try to understand it from the person with different background. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for your answer. And just one more question. What do you think about neutral networks? Have you tried it for data visualization? Neutral
Actually, I
networks.
didn't. Yes, actually, I didn't, to be honest, but I will check and maybe get you some updates next time.
Great. Thank you so much. Okay, we are moving on. And our next speaker is Yulia Zhorova. By the way, Yulia is a project manager and she will share her vision on the concept of implementation for a project in data domain. Yulia, let's start.
Thank
Thank
you,
you so much.
Katerina. Thank you. Hello, colleagues, and welcome to our event. My topic for today is called Cultivate the Land for Your Data Project. Here you can see the outline. I will start from brief introduction. Then I composed a few questions, and this talk is actually my humble attempt to answer them. After that, there will be time for your questions and comments. Colleagues, the time for this talk is quite limited, so I'm not embarking here on covering well such a deep topic in all its aspects. Neither will I be able to maybe entertain you with many interesting examples, but I'll be happy to get in touch and continue the discussion if you decide to contact me after the talk. My name is Yulia. I reside in Madrid, Spain. I was born and raised in Kazakhstan, and these pictures are taken in its beautiful capital, Astana, last summer. I'm a manager by trade. I used to teach at university. I had multiple non-IT project and operational roles in my management career. Within my IT experience, though, I had 15 data production projects of different nature, needs, and technologies behind, but the majority of them were about data analytics. 11 of them were led by me throughout all phases from their initiation to closure. Data projects have their own specifics. I believe these specifics demand deliberate attention and actions from managers, not only from engineers or other technical team members. Today, I will be talking about these specifics, how to identify, analyze, and capture them, what conclusions can be made, and how your actions at the initiation phase may impact your further project phases. Here, I'm trying to avoid project initiation activities that will be typical or applicable to all projects. Data projects, of course, vary in their content. As just a very few examples, your project might be about solely building storage of raw data, or a project may encompass building a full-scale data platform with multiple layers from landing to publishing. Or a project might be about data migration from on-premise to cloud, or about integrating 2 or more systems for regular data transfers between them. After all, it is not about bringing a concrete approach. It is rather about triggering active thinking and choosing your own approach that you will find most useful. Taking up a new project is always terrifying and exciting at the same time. Plus, you might be at different positions of relationships with the business customers and with different levels of information that you've got available. You can be completely new at the organization, or you can be familiar with the organization's environment in general, but the project can be requested by another business unit or department, so you encounter your stakeholders for the first time. Or you can be working for the same unit for long period, already gained trust, and the customers came directly to you asking to get your hands on this new business need and turn it into a project. It is critical to identify all stakeholders as early as possible. The very first steps are the same as on any other project. Obtain all the names and roles known at this point. If possible to obtain, take the internal org structure. The org structure will help you in understanding formal relationships between the stakeholders and identifying potential stakeholders who might not be assigned yet or even informed about your project. So, what stakeholders shall we focus on? Project sponsor can be an individual sponsor, senior upper level executive, or portfolio director, or any of that kind of representative. Must be able to commit resources and provide appropriate funding for the project. Business owner is the person who will make decisions about your project requirements and their priorities. Also, business owner is the one who will be aligning your product with the business goals, validating it along the way. Or alternatively, you can have this setup if your business owner prefers to delegate decisions to colleagues, subject matter experts. Not a desired situation, but realistic. Data steward or stewards. A data steward is business leader or subject matter expert assigned and responsible for data validation and data alignment with business rules, with business reality, as is state, and with business goals, meaning to be state. These stakeholders come from business side always. Data steward is a non-technical role. Don't look for them on the technical side, even if their role sounds technical or suggests a role in project management or engineering area. Data stewards usually operate within a business function, plus within a country or a region. So this combination of function and geography defines their subject area. Depending on the size and maturity of an organization, data stewards can be already known and assigned to their subject areas, or they can be potential data stewards, meaning that they're not aware of what the role embodies, why it is needed, and what it will demand from them. In the first case, which you are more likely to see in large organizations, a deeper definition might be useful to understand the difference between their roles. In the second case, you can and probably should raise awareness of the need in such role and what engagement your project will benefit from. In other words, state simply what this person will do on your project. Nothing more or less than that. Not more because you don't want to overwhelm your potential stakeholder, not less because you need to be open about the project expectations. You don't want to raise resistance from their side, you want to raise interest to your project and willingness to collaborate. Later on, as your project progresses, data stewards make a great couple with business data analyst or product owner. So you'll need to ensure they are properly introduced when people in these roles are staffed on your project. At the initiation phase, data stewards are not the people who authorize the project. So typically, at least from my experience, their authorization is not required. However, as key stakeholders, they have to be defined at this stage. They might be approvers for data access requests, for instance, which you will certainly need to raise for your team members. They often play a tester role during user acceptance testing. By definition provided by Data Management Dictionary, a data steward is accountable for the whole list of activities. Do not approach your data steward with this list ever. Neither shall you use the word accountable here. This is probably not how you can win cooperation for the future. But you can use this description of accountabilities to prepare for your first discussion with business owner or SME. You can look at this list and understand for yourself first where you will need data stewardship most, where they can participate optionally, or where their contribution is not needed at all in scope of your project, at least. If your project includes, for instance, such goals as building data governance, implementing master data management, implementing data quality controls, data reconciliation, presence of data steward is a must. Next one, enterprise or domain architect. This role usually does review a project request, justification, and provides authorization. So in most organizations, especially in regulated ones, the project doesn't get to start unless approved by the architect. It can happen that architect already authorized the project. If it was done right by project sponsor, then all you need is just get the name and make the first connection. If it did not happen, you shall reach out to architect. Also, if a project is run by a waterfall-like methodology, or if, regardless of methodology, there are quality gates that you will need to pass through 3-5 times during the project, architecture review is often a mandatory step to get from one phase to another. In fact, this is not an architecture review. This usually happens as a project review done by architect. A tricky point here is, excuse me, is often team members don't expect the architect being interested in business requirements. However, it is exactly what happens. Architects often reviews the architecture itself on a very high level, while they are more interested in business goals, values, and how the project is sharpened to attain that goal. And often they are also a part of data governance council or committee. So architects should be in good collaboration with your project solution architect, of course, although when preparing for a review, I would recommend joining forces with a business analyst or product owner. Also, the architect will help you decide in such lucky case of choice of technologies. In case there is a platform and the components will have to be shared or reused, you can also get more information. Or if your project is justified properly, you may explain the need of more infrastructure resources, more power and performance for your team. You may have seen cases or you've been on projects when where architecture review is literally the most difficult and suffering goal for the team and the project. When solution architects prepare for it a month in advance, then they are rejected multiple times. In my experience, two things should help and smooth your way to the heart of your enterprise architect. First, take your business analyst or product owner with you. Second, prepare in advance. Don't wait until the quality gate. make a connection and communicate with architect on a minimally acceptable regular basis. Don't annoy him or her, but still don't be afraid to draw attention to your project. Sometimes I observed cases when architects are avoided by all means in the fear that they will challenge your architecture proposal. Well, guess what? If they do, you are better off to encounter that as early as possible. Because if you feel that the architecture approach can be challenged, it will be, and you don't want to face that at later phases. Operations lead. Operations lead is a very important and valuable figure, often neglected until the product is approaching UAT. This is not right. I think operations lead shall be informed and involved into your project before the start. Operations lead's approval is not required to launch the project. However, it will definitely be needed to authorize your first and following deployments to UAT and production environments. If you don't make proper connection in advance, the stakeholder will be a brick wall that you will hit very hard, wrecking your timelines. Probably nobody knows your users' behavior and your data better than technical support. So if budget allows, I recommend assigning a support team lead at least at 20 or 30% capacity to your project team for consultancy. Infrastructure lead. This person provides you with the information about essential infrastructure. First of all, you will need to request access to the infrastructure for your team members. When they are staffed, questions to discuss also with this person, how many environments will be available for a project team. You will need at least development, QA, UAT, and production environments set up. Also, when it comes to tooling and resource limitations on cloud platforms, very generous advice can come from infrastructure lead here. And security and compliance officer. Security, compliance, and data privacy procedures are the absolute must on any IT project. But on data projects, any mistakes or breaches will cost considerable amount of money and will bring considerable loss of reputation for your business. Any of your team members, I listed just a few here, shall study the procedures and incorporate them into the product. If you plan to have a security engineer on your project team, this is great, but security and compliance officer will advise on what is applicable to your business and project, considering locations, industry, and organization. Also, their formal authorization is required at many project stages and quality gates. Last but not least, project manager of external systems. It is very likely that your solution will interact with other systems. There will be data sources and data targets. There will be other projects implementing their solutions and products on the same infrastructure, on the same data layers you also work with. You need to have right points of contact from those systems, at least one representative. At the initiation phase, it can be project or product manager. Later on, they may appoint another team member to communicate with you and your project on a regular basis. What questions to address with them? Well, you shall be interested in how and when your project can be impacted by theirs, and if any impact can come from your side. So request main documentation containing functional and non-functional requirements, along with a release calendar. It should be sufficient for you to conduct impact assessment. Remember, you are not here to assess or qualify their work and the produced documents. You are here to establish relationships and meaningful exchange of information. Ask questions, but ask them coming from a place of curiosity, learning, and sharing. Target the content, not the quality or form of documents. If you are coming from a place of judgment, unsolicited advice, imposed expertise, such attitude will shut many doors. So what is worth considering for meaningful documentation deliverables? As a pre-word, I'd like to say that your goal at this point is not to cover all the project requirements in advance, but to reduce uncertainty, define what the project is actually about, and initiate this clarification process to give it momentum. As a byproduct, yes, you will also collect information and establish connections, which will be foundational for further cooperations. If your customer's environment regulates documentation deliverables, let's say if there are templates in place, you should really seek for those templates, but it's not much about the structure of the documents. As with templates, it will be easy, as about the meaningful content to put in. Because if you understand your project, if you have asked the right questions, you have got your answers. And it will be just the matter of technique and time to document this valuable information in the right form. Project glossary. Start designing and building up your project glossary as soon as you've heard about the project. This is literally the very first thing, document you can and should start, even if somewhere on background, even if in notes. For obvious reasons, yes, it will help you speak the same language with your stakeholders, whether they are from business or technical sides. A good project glossary will even support your team members that are not proficient in English, as they will have a set of terms as a foundation. It will eliminate pauses in verbal communications and ambiguity in written emails. Start from putting there even common data terms and abbreviations. For example, DQ, data quality, ETL, extract, transform, load. 3 V's of big data, which stands for volume, velocity, and variety. PK, primary key, and so on. Or you may want to include abbreviations which indicate your team roles as DQE, data quality engineer, which will be useful as you often discuss staffing profiles or assignments of tasks. Usually these abbreviations are used in emails or in project charter, stakeholder matrix, RACI matrix. These abbreviations are also often used. If anybody just joined the project, it will be more convenient for them to read and understand. Good structure would be of 3 columns, I think. Term or acronym, deciphered meaning, and context. Do not impose any terminology. Pay attention to your stakeholders' vocabulary and how they use and react to those words. Validate and update the glossary. I recommend reviewing and updating your glossary every 2-4 weeks, or at the frequency matching your sprint length if your work is organized in sprints. Such document by itself is never considered as a project deliverable or outcome. Maybe that's why it is very often neglected by project managers. However, this is a very useful complementary document that will be supporting everybody involved into the project. Business case and its content. Business goal and actual expected value is essential to understand. We all know that. And this truth is no different from any other project, I believe. It is important, though, to form this main question as what problem do we have to solve? Exactly from that angle. The amount of data is drastically increasing every day in every organization. There are actually a lot of problems that can come along with that. First of all, having or processing data and not collecting or managing it properly is the problem by itself, as organizations are missing opportunities and potential profits from what is not used. So if your customers are not open yet to such kind of dialogue, at least ask yourself, that. Very simple to start from. And this is especially relevant for data analytics projects where data will be visible to the end users, no matter the tool. I start from three major aspects: meaning, function, and geography. So I look at the scope from these three perspectives. What reality does the data represent? What functions do the data have to perform? They might be describe the state, diagnose the why, predict outcomes, or prescribe solutions. Per simplified statistics, diagnostic is the most popular function of data analytics these days. What geography will we cover? Such questions and approach will help you to understand the right sources and how the data serve business today as is, because data always have their meaning and purpose. Those meaning and purpose exist regardless of whether your project exists. Geography. Knowing the geography will determine security, data privacy, and compliance regulations, so you will be able to classify your project accordingly. It can give you the right feeling about volume and quality of your data scope as well. Knowing the geography of your business users will determine scope and efforts on your project, as for instance, to conduct user acceptance testing and later on to run training sessions, you'll have to include representatives from each country or at least each region. It will ensure product adoption by users. Traditionally, business case should include pre-calculated or estimated monetary profit, which is usually stated as business benefit, or at least market competitive advantages. Such things are normally calculated by project sponsor, but you can help tremendously if, first, if you find out actual business value from your questions carefully asked and answered. If you have tried to find the truth, the actual answers that map to reality. Second, you can bring more structure to the business case. While project sponsor definitely knows better their business and their internal formal procedures, you can list additional advantages and disadvantages here, leveraging your experience and knowledge of technologies. So the structure might say, here are 3-5 wonderful things that is why we should invest into this project. And here are 2-3 bad things that will happen if the project is not initiated and implemented. Also, data sources and data forms. A question, or rather a demand to approach your stakeholder with is show me the sources. I consider this one as the most important question. And if it was up to me, I would always ask it right after, hello colleagues, my name is Julia. Because if I have access to the data sources, I can derive the answers to many, to multiple questions. Your team members will be able to do that too, but it will take time. So as the question will be extremely relevant, you can ask it already at this point. However, you might not be able to do the analysis yet, as the access provisioning always takes time. And actually, this is not the task for initiation process, but depending on the answer, you will know in advance whether you have access to the data in the first place and the form in which the data will come to you. Knowing the form and types of your data will also serve in deciding, for instance, whether you go with relational or no SQL databases in your architecture approach. Data models. Data models here can serve for business case as very valuable components and can be even included into your contract. Data models documented as diagrams bring certainty in agreed scope and known constraints. Using such diagrams for project initiation, you will avoid ambiguity and arguments with your business in the future. Data flow diagrams represents where data comes from, where it goes, how it is processed, where it is stored. Data flow diagram is always dynamic. It can be documented using this very simple notation of 4 elements. There are 2 styles with very subtle differences. Entity relationship diagram. ERD is static and describes data objects along with their relationships. There are many notations and styles. For the purposes of documenting business case, I recommend Chen notation. Again, it's very simple and consists of 4 main elements, which have their own variations to be precise, but they are not necessary at this phase. Isn't documenting data models too technical or at least too early task? Isn't it too much for project manager to handle? No, not at all. There are 3 levels of data models in terms of their specifics: conceptual, logical, and physical. You should aim at the very high conceptual level. It is abstract, it is meaningful enough for your business case. Moreover, I can tell that if you are not able to draw conceptual data flow diagram, it's a reliable sign that you are missing essential information and you don't understand your project enough to initiate and manage it. This is how data models will evolve further and feed project artifacts. When your team is set up, they will use DFD and ERD to produce more detailed specifications, and they will appreciate very much having your conceptual model as a reference. Measure dimension matrix. It's an essential document for understanding business need and scope of data analytics projects, for instance. It shows very well what facts business need to see. It shows context and perspectives your business need to put the data in. It can be included into contract, but probably in the form of 2 lists for convenience. The matrix form is more useful for requirements elicitation and validation. As you can see on the left side of the picture, I recommend grouping measures into objects, visualizations, and dashboards. The scope of work and efforts may vary significantly depending on number of these components, so it makes sense to identify and outline them. Statement of work. This structure that you see on the screen will be sufficient for a statement of work, and by this point you shall be able to compose it by yourself or with collaboration. A few notes here. Schedule. Consider quality assurance efforts, user acceptance testing efforts, deployment efforts in case data are not available till production. For example, it can be a case within highly regulated organizations. Price, you can contribute by advising on better choice of tools and architecture components. With cloud solutions, important to set up rules and alerts on the platforms, so the resources are used wisely and within the approved budget. And finally, project charter. Project charter is the central agreement between business and IT organizations. Project charter validates alignment of project to organization's work and strategy. Usually, project charter is authored and pushed forward by project sponsor. Remember this character? Project manager here enhances understanding of project context and goals. Project managers' involvement at the early stage ensures more efficient execution. Once project charter is approved, project is formally initiated. And if you've created a meaningful document, your project sponsor will be happy to approve and support your project. Congratulations. So, how to create and outline key roles since you have received your approval. Now it's time to plan your team. In a short summary, I see here 3 crucial aspects. First, understanding needed technical skills properly. Second, understanding needed allocations. And third, staffing people with expertise or at least experience in your project's business domain. As of skills, you shall really know and understand what your team will be doing and what every data skill means. Otherwise, you may create a hell of a nonsense instead of your position's descriptions. If you are not sure about your own expertise in the variety of data-related skills and technologies, you may want to approach your colleagues for some help or even to hire an external agency with proper specialists and technical interviewers. As for the allocations, take into account that, for instance, on data projects, analysts and QA engineers can outnumber developers because these roles have much higher workload. This is a normal situation. Business domain knowledge will ensure much faster onboarding and much deeper understanding from your team members. If data specialists don't know the business processes behind the data, it will be hard for them to connect the dots and map the data with business reality. At least half of the team members should have such knowledge. So if previous steps are done well enough, you have all the needed input to build up your resource plan and outline your staffing profiles. And with that, my presentation is coming to its end. So this could be a quick reference to our discussion. And with that, I'm happy to hear your questions or comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Julia. Thank you for sharing your experience and your knowledge with us today. Yeah, we have just 2 questions from the chat. So, first question. Many data projects deeply depend on the business domain. Do you think it's important to train analytics, developers, and managers to understand business processes and business language? How long could it take?
Good question. Yes, as I mentioned, I do believe it is extremely important. Again, it depends on your reality. It depends on business domain as well, although I believe there is no such thing as easy to learn business domain. But yes, organizing such trainings is important if you have such capacity, maybe budget, availability of maybe some business domain experts. Yes, extremely important. How long will it take? Right, Katerina, that
Yeah.
was kind of
Mhm.
the
How
second
long
part.
could it take? Mhm.
Hard to say. I might be able to estimate on a concrete example, for instance, but it depends on the size of your team members. It depends on how much, for instance, your business stakeholders are willing maybe to invest here, because nobody knows the business better than subject matter experts. You can, depends on the means of such learning that you choose. For example, you can reach out or, for example, purchase some external trainings, but it will be better, yeah, if, for instance, such learning and such training is organized within the organization. I believe, though, I don't know, to let's say to operate effectively within a project team, for developers, QA engineers, it may take, I'm afraid to say the number, up to 2 months. maybe. For analysts, for example, the longer the better, whatever you can afford. Such things as, again, sorry to repeat myself, as project glossary and availability of internal documents within the organization will help tremendously and significantly. And of course, communications within team members will also help because usually some team members do know the business specifics more than others. And if they communicate not in short sentences like it should be this way or that way, but if they always contextualize and bring explanations of why, I believe it helps, it accumulates overall team knowledge.
Okay, thank you so much for your answer. And one more question. Could you advise some literature for data developers who are moving to a management direction?
Moving to a management direction for data developers. Well, literature, good question. Project management body of knowledge. I believe this is a very useful book, really. Current like 7th edition is quite different from previous editions. So if you have time to study both, like 6th edition and 7th one, it will be useful. Data management dictionary and data management body of knowledge is also useful. And literature, I would say, depending also on developers' background. If, for instance, this is a developer that, how to say, acquired skills like in recent years and maybe worked only on big data projects or with NoSQL databases, for example, I would also recommend reading like good old-fashioned, maybe already theory of Inman and Kimball. I can put specific book names because they provide such a solid foundational knowledge to data concepts that for me, for example, has been always useful, no matter I work with relational or non-relational databases and with big data, or these books are quite old and the authors are quite famous for their reason. That would be it.
Okay, thank you so much. And we have just one more question for you. Could you please share what is the most important skill of the team member on which you rely during setting up the team to start the project successfully? What is the most important skill of the team member on which you rely during setting up the team to start the project successfully?
I would say this question actually contains the answer. I rely on soft skill. Just I'll start from kind of abstraction. I rely on soft skills more than on hard skills because I believe if a person, let's say a good person, can always learn what is needed in terms of hard skills or technical specifics. But yeah, in general, two things, reliability and integrity. For me, it is important. It is for business stakeholders, for other team members. I believe it is important that you can always rely on the person, on their words and actions in a teamwork. And integrity is also crucial. We don't have basically time to waste for anything but fair, honest, and open work environment. All the other things that conflict with integrity is a waste of time and potential loss of trust for our customers. So reliability and integrity.
Okay, thank you so much for answering. So we don't have any more questions in the chat, so let's sum it up. So I would like to say huge thank you to our speakers. Today we've just had 5 fantastic ladies who shared their inspiring stories and the challenges they face in their daily work. And I would like to say thank you for our viewers for spending this evening with us. If you find this meetup useful, please could you provide us with some kind of feedback? I will quickly show you how to do that. So here you can see the page of our Spain Data community. Please join our community as well to stay tuned for our upcoming events. Go to the page of the event. So here press the page of the event and go to the talk. Please press here. You may rate the topic if you find it interesting and useful by pressing the button right now. So I'm pressing the button and just choose the stars. Also, you may say thank you for the speech to our speaker by pressing the button say thank you. And here you can see 3 customized badges. Choose the badge, leave your comment, and give the badge to our speakers. And also after the meetup, you are going to receive the feedback form. We will be so grateful if you leave feedback. It is very important for the development of our community. So please join our community, stay tuned for our upcoming events, and we are preparing lots of interesting online and offline events and also meetups. See you soon. Bye.